Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. What's poppin', Rick?
What's up? What's up?
We are still in the midst of free agency signings and stuff like that. So as stuff happens throughout the show, we will get the information to you and how it affects you in fantasy football as fast as humanly possible. But today, our main point of conversation is the quarterback position, and more specifically, our top 10 ranked quarterbacks for 2022. So we're going to do some quarterback rankings on this show, some very early QB rankings. I'm excited to get to it. Before we do that, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on any social platform that you would like. Just find us, type the FF Champs in, the Fantasy Champions, any platform. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, please leave a review and then share this podcast with your friends. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and then smash the like button and comment down below who your favorite quarterback going into 2022 is and why. I think it's fun. Like this time of year, we get to set the structure and the foundation of our fantasy analysis for the 2022 season. You know, it's like it's like we're giving you our preliminary rankings for all the really good players, and then we're going to stop talking about them for 5 months until we have rankings again. I actually kind of really like 2 weeks ago or whatever when we released our first two ranking shows. Because I think we did a part 1 and a part 2 for both wide receivers and running backs. But on those shows, I think it was on the wide receiver show, we did this thing where we broke down the top 50, not the top 50, but we were breaking down where guys are ranked on the ECR. I thought that was fun. Maybe we'll do a show based on just that. But anyway, you ready to get this popping, Rick? Talk about some quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Any free agency news that you want to hit us with before we jump in?
I'm looking right now. I can't see anything yet.
We're glued to our phones.
I know. We're pre-recording this, so.
Oh, we didn't mention Trubisky to the Steelers in the last show.
Oh, yeah.
Not that that matters.
No,
sorry, Mitch.
Not really. I think they're going to draft a quarterback, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Probably. Unless they're tanking for next year. Mitch ends up winning him 16 games.
Big tank, and then they go undefeated.
All right, let's talk about some quarterbacks, and we'll get the news to you as it comes.
Sure.
So we're gonna do ECR. Obviously, we've done ECR for the last couple positions. I think it's running back, quarterback, tight end. The first week we didn't do that, and it was a disaster. But so right now, for the first time in I think 3 years, the ECR is not Patty Mahomes. It's Josh Allen. Allen's best rank is 1. His worst rank is 2, and that's going to change when I submit my rankings. So suck it. Mahomes is average 2 as well, so that's crazy. It's the 1 and 2. There is no deviation. That's it. Everyone agrees except for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have Josh Allen as the number 1 quarterback. The last 2 years for fantasy football, Josh Allen has been the QB1, and this year it kind of really wasn't that close. I think it was like 20. Yeah, it's a 22-point differential between Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. In 2020, he was the QB1 with 405 fantasy points, a 15-point differential. In 2019, he was the QB6. So yeah, the last 2 years he's been really good. He keeps ascending year on year. And so really interesting to see what Josh Allen has done. Obviously, he's been really good. At some point, I like Josh Allen's the new thing for the NFL, right? Like remember when Patty Mahomes broke out?
Yep.
He was the hot thing. Everyone wanted Patrick Mahomes. And like I remember with the first year you had him, and you had some fantasy football love attached to that man's because he won you a championship in some leagues, and you love Patrick Mahomes. You're like, this guy's great. threw 50
Right.
touchdowns. You mocked me for saying that he wouldn't throw more than 40 in his second season. And he didn't throw 40.
I don't know if I would use the word mocked, but okay. That was highly unlikely.
Yeah. So anyway, and then he took kind of like a downward turn. And Patrick Mahomes, year after year, he's being ranked as the QB1, but not finishing as the QB1. And he's kind of had to change the way he plays the quarterback position to adapt to what defenses are doing. And I think Josh Allen's the new hot thing. Everyone's looking at him going, how do you stop this guy? He's a bulldozer and he can run it. He, when he doesn't have anything down the field, he has a cannon of an arm. His accuracy has improved. All this stuff. I think there's going to come a point where defenses start to try to, figure out Josh Allen a little bit, where he's going to have to adjust his game to be a little bit different than what he has had in the past. But the big thing about Josh Allen is that he kind of passes it, and he's not on the level of Patrick Mahomes when it comes to passing, but he's up there like top 5 in the league. But he has the ability to rush for like 800 yards in a season.
Yeah.
It's like, if you have those two things, I mean, he should be the QB1. I have him too, really quickly, only because I think there was a little bit of regression this year. I think there could be some form of regression going into next year. I don't know that they're going to be. I mean, see, this is why I'm confusing myself a little bit. I think Mahomes is due. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
That's why he's 2 for me. But if you rank Josh Allen 1, I do not judge you in the slightest.
That's the crazy thing, though, is Josh Allen did have regression this year, and he still finished as QB1. I think your better argument, which I thought where you were going with this, is he's just not going to rush for 800 yards again, whatever he did in like 10 touchdowns.
763.
How many touchdowns did he have
6.
on the road? How many did he have the year before?
Pulling it up now.
Because I don't know if... 700 rushing.
8 and 421 rushing yards.
Okay, so but there's the key. Okay, so the touchdowns I guess are going to be the same. He's going to have around there, but I don't think he's going to rush for 700 rushing yards. That might go down.
That would be a 30-point difference.
Yes, which is huge. But the reason I still have him number 1 is because I think he might be more of an efficient passer this year. Close. He's not going to be as good. I mean, that year where he threw 69%, I just think that's like ridiculous. That's not really his game either. I don't think he's that type of passer.
69% itself is not ridiculous. It was just for Josh Allen to take a leap from 58% to 69%.
Yeah, I mean, 69% would be second in the NFL in completion percentage, wouldn't it?
This year? I think Mac was 71%.
No. I'm looking this up.
NFL
or you could look it up
percentage.
Yeah, 69 would have been second in the NFL. Burrow led the NFL at 70%.
What the hell is going on with my browser?
Murray 68.3, Tua 67.8. Mac Jones had dude, you hype up Mac Jones a lot, bro. 67.3 though, that's still very good.
As a rookie, bro. As a rookie.
I know. He's not 71. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I mean 69. I don't think that's Josh. I don't think Josh Allen's going to be number 1 or number 2 in the league in completion percentage.
To be fair,
he's going to kind of be like Mahomes, which is 67%. Which I could see that 66%, something in that range.
To be fair, just to give you a list of, he was number 4 in the NFL the season he had the 69%.
Okay.
Yeah, he was number 4. So it was Rodgers, Breeze, and Watson.
I still don't think. I don't feel like Josh Allen's the type of quarterback to finish top 5 in completion percentage. You know,
no,
what I mean?
he's not going to probably do that again.
Top 10, yes, he should finish in the top 10. Top 5, though, I don't know. But either way, I think it'll be better than what he did this year. So that raises up, and yeah, he's been QB1 2 years in a row. That's actually the thing that scares me the most about Josh Allen is just doing it a third year. But that's why I have him number 1. And then with Mahomes being number 2, he's Patrick Mahomes. Like you said, he's kind of due. I really wouldn't be surprised if he ends up finishing QB1, especially if they end up adding a receiver here in free agency or in the draft.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes. There's not too much to argue about that. I think these are the clear 1 and 2 guys.
Yeah. So it's funny that we just got into the second guy. Josh Allen is the second guy. And we'll talk about them both at the same time. Rick and I have these guys reversed, obviously. So it's me, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Rick, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, Josh Allen is in that conversation at number 2 only because I think that, there is some form of regression that is going to happen. Like, even if Rick said, he doesn't get 700, 800 rushing yards, which, to be honest with you, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, Rick, because the way that the team is drawing up their system, or at least Brian Daboll did, that's exactly what they were making it out for Josh Allen. There was a lot of designed runs, and I don't know that that's going to change with him.
Right.
But that is another interesting area that we didn't talk about. Daboll turned Josh Allen from 58% completion percentage, interception prone, terrible with accuracy, not a great quarterback, a guy that maybe could be a top 10 quarterback, but we're not sure because he doesn't have many of the not the physical traits, but the accuracy or the passing ability that we thought he could turn into. Brian Daboll turned him around, made him a good quarterback. I don't know how much you put on Daboll and how much you put on Josh Allen. I would imagine that you put more on Josh Allen than you put on Daboll, but with him gone, how much do you think that affects Josh Allen? That's kind of a huge.
I will say, I think the first year he broke out. I mean, I will always put more on the player and not just in the situation.
Yeah.
But the first year he broke out, especially, Brian Daboll was huge. I mean, it really kind of changed the way he was looking at it. But I think by the end of this year, like when I was watching Josh Allen in the playoff game, he was controlling the offense. He was basically calling plays. He was had a head on the offense. It looked totally different than what it did 2 years ago. And Ken Dorsey's now the OC, who has been with Daboll for the last 3 years. And he's going to run a very similar offense with the Bills. So I don't know if it's too big of a difference. I mean, we'll see. It could be. I wouldn't be surprised if it was because I think Brian Daboll is a good offensive coach and really was good with Josh Allen. So I wouldn't be shocked about that. But I think at this point in Josh Allen's career, I'm not too worried about it, but it's something to keep an eye on.
I'm not worried about it from the context of like, oh my God, he's going to suck. He's going to go back to 58% completion percentage and be that quarterback he was 3 years ago, right? I don't think that. I think you unlock something in Josh Allen and he's going to be good regardless. I do think that Josh Allen does rely on play call a lot with some of his decisions. Like if it's on him alone, I don't know how elite that offense can get to with Josh Allen. Like, is it still like top 10? Yeah, obviously. But I don't like if the play calling is just atrocious and Josh Allen is left there to try to figure it out and go 3-4 reads deep. I don't know if Josh Allen can do that without running out of the pocket in complete panic. So, I mean, I'm lower on Josh Allen than most people are, but for fantasy football purposes, I am not. I think the massive thing is that the last quarterback to finish 3 straight years as the QB1 was like Rodgers, like 10 years ago.
True.
So I don't know that can happen again. Now, Josh Allen does have all the traits. He can pass like the best in the league. He can rush like some of the best in the league. So it's like he has that double whammy that will make him, that's a weird word, whammy, that will make him that could make him the QB1 again for the 3rd year in a row. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I think Patrick Mahomes is due. There's no reason for me to really believe that. And if A-Rob really does go to the Chiefs,
yeah, it's scary.
That would put Patrick Mahomes 1. So that is kind of where my separation is. But do you want to move on to the third guy?
Sure.
So third on the ECR and third on our list so far is Kyla Murray. Actually, I'm sorry, I lied. Justin Herbert is the number 3 quarterback in fantasy football on the ECR. I have him number 4. Rick has him number 5. I'm curious, Rick, why number 5?
This is kind of hard. I also just looked up where he finished last year. I completely forgot he was QB2.
Yeah.
That is kind of hard to argue why he's 5 on my list. So what I will say with Herbert, you said you had him 4.
Yes.
So don't go crazy on me, okay? I will just prefer the guys who run at that top of the list than the guy who doesn't. And not that Herbert doesn't run a lot, but he mostly relying on passing. But the guys I have ahead of Herbert are all runner or like kind of running quarterbacks or have a high combination of the two.
Yeah.
That is literally the only reason Herbert is ridiculous. He's a special quarterback. Again, QB2 this year, which is insane.
He did have 2 rushing touchdowns and 300 yards, which is only like 40 extra fantasy points. But
yeah,
continue, sorry.
That's why I said it's like mostly reliant. Because even if you took away all of his rushing, Herbert would have been what'd you say, 40 fantasy points?
Yeah, somewhere with that.
So he would have been about QB5 if you took away literally all of his rushing. Yeah. So just purely based on passing, which is actually insane. Herbert is a special player. If you own him in Dynasty, you are a very lucky person. He's ridiculous. Again, personal preference here, I'll take the guys that run a lot.
Yeah.
But if you have Herbert number 3, I'm not going to diss you on that at all.
Yeah, his best ranking is 3, his worst ranking is 5. So we're
from the 3 to 5, I think are all very close.
Yeah, that's a very.
I don't know if you agree with me on that.
No, I was looking at Justin Herbert having a tough time as well, kind of trying to figure out where he should end up at this point because, it makes it. It makes it like having him 3 was a lot for me. I don't know what it was. It was like a huge leap for me to put him 3, even though he finished 2 this year. And I was talking to Rick prior to the show, and there's so many quarterbacks that like we're going to talk about Russell Wilson on this show, but is there a chance Russell Wilson like just pops off like he's done in the past and ends up top 3 with his new team, and they just let Russ cook #? Yeah. So go ahead.
Evan Lazar tweeted, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. The Patriots had preliminary. Thank you. Gosh. Okay, so they had talks with his camp, per source, but there's nothing there either way as of right now. Deal could be worth up north of $12 million. So basically, the Patriots aren't out of the market, but there's nothing there with MVS as of right now.
$12 million for MVS?
Over. North of $12 million for MVS.
Why?
Who's not even a top 50 receiver in the NFL.
Oh my God, guys.
I hope it's not the Pats. I just hope it's not the Pats. Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't want to sign a receiver in this market right now. It's too hot. But anyway. Yeah, so for me, it's like, I feel like Herbert being 3 is too high, and it's similar to what Rick was talking about. It's the rushing attributes of some, like, obviously Mahomes has the ability to pop off at any time and throw 50 touchdowns, so he's not really a rusher, but I do like Mahomes more than I like Justin Herbert. But like you have guys like Kyla Murray, you have guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, like all of these top 4 or 5 quarterbacks rush it a lot, and Justin Herbert does not. Now, Herbert and I don't think the Chargers are going to do anything realistically to change the system or the team that they have in place right now. Mm-hmm. They brought back Mike Williams, so I don't know that they're going to add anyone. Like you have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, you have what's his name, Austin Eckler. Like you have a good offensive line. They're not making any changes or improvements to that team this offseason in terms of the offense for the most part. So with that being said, you're going to kind of see Justin Herbert become more static. But he did some special things. Like when they were trying to make the playoffs last year, I felt so bad because the Raiders just don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Or they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. He just there was 4th down after 4th down after 4th down after 4th down that he converted in that last game against the Raiders to try to make the playoffs. And he was just shredding it. Like he's gonna be when his team gets put together defensively, like he's gonna be scary to deal with, especially in the postseason. But as far as fantasy football is concerned, I don't know if he can do QB2 again. But anyway, That's my thoughts on Justin Herbert, and that's why I don't have him 3.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, you want to move on?
I might end up moving him above a guy. I'm kind of debating between him and someone else, but as of right now, yes.
Okay. Number 4 on the ECR is Kyla Murray. His best rank is 3, worst rank is 9. So this guy has the most.
I don't know how he's 9. That's the worst one.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Kyla Murray last year was, and I think I just looked at this 2 seconds ago, in the points per game totals, Kyla Murray was number 4, and he played in 13 games. So that's why he didn't finish as high as he did. And for me, I think A, it's his rushing, and B, it's his ability. He's been a lot better of a passer than people have expected. He has the really good receiving core. He has the decent offensive line. Like, things came together for the Cardinals. And I think if he stays on the field for a full 16, 17, 18 game season, he is going to be a top 3 quarterback. I think that's almost a lock. Or at least a top 5 quarterback, I should say. That's a lock. But I have him 3 because I like him better because of his rushing than Justin Herbert. I like Josh Allen better. I like Patrick Mahomes better. And I think Kyler could be a really good quarterback moving into. I'm actually shocked that people would rank him as low as 9. That's astounding to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either. I mean, unless you're scared about Christian Kirk.
$22 million wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't really see that. Going into last year, Kyler Murray was wide quarterback 2, 3, by a lot of people's rankings. He was in that conversation. So this year, I don't know how you would rank him 9. I think 3 is a good spot. If you want to say 4, or even as low as 5, I will accept. But yeah, he top 4 in points per game. And he had a down stretch too. He could have easily been top 3. Deandra Hopkins was also hurt. So another year with Deandra Hopkins fully there. Hopefully the emergence of Rondell Moore. They brought back Zach Ertz, who was huge for the offense. I think Kyler Murray is a pretty safe bet for the top 5. And with his rushing upside, I'll take him number 3.
Yeah, agreed. Number 5 on the ECR is Lamar Jackson. He has a larger variation. Best rank 3, lowest rank 11. So there's some people who are differentiating themselves on Lamar Jackson and bringing up that points per game for last season. He did not have a great season. He was 9th in points per game. He only played in 12 games last year. There was something going on there with Lamar Jackson, and he did miss. He would start games and then miss time in get hurt during the game and then miss some time in the game itself. So obviously those numbers are a little bit different, but he struggled a little bit more last season than anything else. He had 767 rushing yards and only 2 rushing touchdowns in seasons past, like in 2020. He played 15 games, had 7 rushing touchdowns. In 2019, his breakout year, he had 7 rushing touchdowns. So, those 5 rushing touchdowns really make a huge difference. I think that's between 35 and 40 fantasy points right there that he didn't get. And then his receiving metrics did drop off from seasons past. So last year was a little bit of a regression year, and it's causing people to be a little bit more nervous about Lamar Jackson. I have him 5. Rick has him 4. I'm curious to see why Rick has him 4 right now, but I have him 5 because I think Lamar, when he plays a full season and he's rushing the way he normally rushes and he's passing the way he normally passes, like when he's healthy, ready to go and playing, he's a top 5 quarterback in fantasy football. So I would take, Lamar Jackson in that area of number 5 quarterback. But I want to hear your thoughts on why you have him 4.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth between him and Herbert at that 4 or 5 spot. I went with Lamar just because he had such a down year last year, as you were just rattling off the stats: 2 rushing touchdowns, high interception total, all those things. He still finished as QB7 in terms of points per game. Which, if you think about it, is pretty impressive considering his situation. And if you're looking at his situation for this year, The offensive line is, still decent. They're getting J.K. Dobbins back. You got Rashad Bateman in year 2, Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews. This is probably the most talented offense he's ever been a part of. Not to mention the fact that he's going to have I think, better year. Again, it was just a regression year, a bad year for Lamar. I think he's, players will have bad years and then bounce back to having better years and kind of closer years they did the year before. And if you look at the year before, Lamar Jackson, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I could see something similar to that in terms of his passing numbers. And then rushing as well. I don't think he's getting 2 rushing touchdowns in that offense. I think the offense is going to be much better. He had 7 and 7 the 2 previous years. I think it's going to be around there. If he gets 7 rushing touchdowns out of the quarterback with like 600 rushing yards, ask Josh Allen how that goes. It'll be more than that. He had 1,000 yards rushing in 2020, 1,000 yards rushing, 1,200 yards rushing in 2019, and he had 700 in just 12 games. So he's probably going to get close to 1,000 yards rushing, and if he gets like 7 rushing touchdowns to go with 26 passing touchdowns, and he had 2,800 yards last year in just 12 games, so maybe he throws for like 3,400 yards. It's hard to argue that he won't be a top 5, maybe even top 3 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I would hope he gets more yardage, but passing at least.
Well, he doesn't really need a whole ton.
When you get that much rushing, no.
Yeah, but he should throw for more than 3,000.
Because last year he had 28 in 12 games. He had 27 the previous year.
The 27, that's disgusting because he played 15 games.
Yeah, and he still finished relatively high in that season, which is ridiculous. But anyway, so I think Lamar definitely has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback this year. Let's move on to the next guy. And the ECR has Joey Burrow.
Joe
Burrow. I have him 7. Rick has him 7. So we're a little bit lower on Joe Burrow than normal. I'm gonna sound the alarm now, guys.
Oh,
you're getting a little sweaty, and Joe Burrow is one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. Love him, but did he do anything this year to scream, "I'm a top 6 quarterback"? Besides finishing top 5 because a bunch of people missed time.
For fantasy purposes, no.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th in points per game at the quarterback position through 16 games. And Rick, Deshaun Watson's coming back, most likely, without suspension. Yep. Russell Wilson is going to be a hell of a lot better on Denver than he was with Seattle, right?
Yep.
And you might have breakout quarterbacks who are better for fantasy than Joe Burrow plays, right? Like Joe Burrow, better quarterback than those guys right now, obviously. But I mean, for fantasy, Fields and Lance could end up being massive rushing producers for their team this year. And
Fields both those guys could rush for like 800 yards.
Yeah, and if they put together at least a decent season passing, which I would say is 3,500 plus yards and like 25 to 30 touchdowns, you're going to have those guys jump into the conversation as well. So Joe Burrow finished as a top 5 quarterback in 2021, but the points per game totals have him at 9. And I am more concerned that people are buying into the Joe Burrow hype going to the Super Bowl and having all of this, hype and all of this excitement surrounding him, mixing into their fantasy takes about Joe Burrow, when I think he's a great quarterback. I would love for him to be top 5. I have him in many dynasty leagues. Like, I would love for him to be a top 5 quarterback again. But I think it's more likely that he finishes 8 or 9. And that's the type of quarterback that he is, not really that he stinks at quarterback. Like, he's fantastic. He's great. It's just it's the way he plays the game of football that kind of differentiates him from the top. He doesn't rush a lot. He doesn't get a lot, like, even statistically, he's not, like, last year, if you look at his numbers, he wasn't, like, prolific last year passing the football. He was very, very good. 36, what was it? Trying to find his touchdown total. Wow, dude. Why did they make it hard for me? He had 4,600 passing yards, 34 touchdowns. So that's a great season for quarterback.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But when you only rush for 118 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, that kind of makes it difficult for you.
So that's kind of the problem is, like, do you think he's going to have more rushing?
No.
Do you think his passing numbers are going to be more than that?
Yes. Yep.
You do.
Better offensive line? Yeah, definitely.
By how much? He's not throwing 50 touchdowns.
We had 36 last year, so he could hit 40.
Yeah, he could.
Did I get that right? Yeah, 34 passing touchdowns, sorry.
I don't know if he hits 40, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Right.
He might. He definitely, I mean, he's capable of it.
Oh, he's very capable of it. The reason why I have him 7, though, is because I think the quarterbacks that I have in front of him right now are capable of scoring more fantasy points, obviously. That's why I would have him higher. But I think a lot of them are rushing guys. And I think people are going to be too excited. Like, I honestly, I think Joe Burrow is going to be hyped into like the top 5 rounds in fantasy, and I don't think that's worth it. So,
I agree. I think the Super Bowl hype and everything he did in the playoffs is going to translate to the fantasy community and their feelings about Burrow, and he's going to get drafted as a top 5, top 6 quarterback. And fantasy purposes, I don't think he's that. I have him 7, and to be honest, no, I'd probably be 7. I was going to say I might drop him the spot or two, but that points per game, man, 9th in points per game, and he had an awesome season, 9th in points per game. Like, yeah, he could throw a couple more touchdowns, maybe a couple more yards, but I just don't know if it's going to be.
And that's with a qualifier of 12 or more games, by the way. So there's a large sample size for the quarterbacks ahead of him.
I just don't know how much better he's going to throw statistically.
I do think he'll get better. I just don't think it's going to ascend him into a conversation
top 5.
Top 5 in points per game.
I mean, he would have to throw like 40.
He would have to have a Rodgers or Brady-like season to do that.
Yeah.
He would have to have an MVP-like season.
Could.
Yeah,
but
it's just not highly likely. So I'll put him 7 and be wrong, then put him 4, 5, or 6 and be right. I will say, highest rank he is 4. So that shows you the hype.
Yeah, I'm not putting him number 4.
Let's move on to the next guy, which is Aaron Rodgers, re-signing with the Green Bay Packers recently. He goes back there. They tagged Devontae Adams, so Adams off the market. He's working on a contract. Said he wouldn't play, by the way. It's a good note to add before we have this conversation about Rodgers. I have Aaron Rodgers 10. Rick has Aaron Rodgers 10 as well. We are very much lower on Aaron Rodgers than the ECR is. Yeah. And I will say the ECR's worst, the worst ranker in the ECR that has, his best and worst ranking is 5 or 10. And 10.
So we are at the bottom.
We are at the bottom of that threshold. So we're not completely out of the, off our rockers, but the time is going to come for Rodgers, and he's on this massive contract that he just got. He is one of the biggest guys that I don't think he gives a rip about winning. Like, I think he cares, but he doesn't really care. And he's kind of like I used to really like Aaron Rodgers, and lately, man, he's just become a narcissistic D-bag. Like, he's been not a great human being lately. So, I don't know. Rodgers 7. I mean, we're not that far off on where we should have him. But I do think at some point the decline for Rodgers is going to happen, and I think it's going to start happening this season. The way he plays, he would literally, like we just talked about, he would have to have a Tom Brady like 2021 season in order to enter into the top 5. And I don't think that's going to happen for Rodgers. I think 10 is a good area to put him because I don't want to end up with him on any of my teams for the 15th year in a row. And so I like Rodgers, but I don't know how much higher he can go, especially with these quarterbacks I just talked about, like Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson coming back. Like it just pushes him down those rankings. He should be somewhere around 9 or 10 by the time August floats around, and that's where I got him now. So,
and I still like Aaron Rodgers. He's in a great system with Matt LaFleur. He's got Devontae Adams, who Has not signed a contract yet as of the time of recording this, but is expected to be back. He's won MVP 2 years in a row. Obviously, what he did in 2020 is not going to get repeated. 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That is ridiculous. What he did this year, though, he won MVP, 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 4,100 yards. Mm-hmm. If you look at his previous history, 2019, 26 touchdowns, 2018, 25 touchdowns. In 2017, he had 16 in 7 games. So that year he was on pace for like 35, 36. I'll give him that one. He had 40, which I think was his other MVP season, or he was at least in the conversation. Yeah. But then he had 31, 38, 17 again, on pace that year for about 30 touchdowns. So I think 37 is, it's Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not going to say that's crazy. But I would not be surprised this year if he just a couple, like 34, 35 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. It's just those little bit, because he doesn't rush, would drop him a spot or two, which would put him at 9 or 10. Because in points per game, he was QB 8 in points per game. So if he's just any worse, just slightly, just very slightly,
he drops like to 12.
And heck, he could have the same amount of passing numbers, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns this year on 100 rushing yards. So I think those were like QB sneak touchdowns. Let's say he only gets 1 this year instead of 3.
Yeah.
That drops you 12 fantasy points. That probably makes him from QB 8 to QB 9, which is about where we have him, QB 10. So it's nothing against Rodgers. I think he's still Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but there's just guys with higher upside. I think rushing floor at this point in their careers. It's all about the rushing with the quarterbacks. Right. It makes a huge, huge difference.
All right, let's move on to the next guy, which is Dak Prescott, who is number 8 on ECR. I have him number 6. Rick has him number 8, so he agrees. I'm a little higher on Dak Prescott than I normally am. I think the Cowboys are poorly managed and they suck, to be honest with you. And this year, they improved. Defensively, they were better. They were winning football games. I don't know why I feel this about the Dallas Cowboys, but I think they're going to drop down back into mediocrity for whatever reason, and they're going to be chasing points again. And if they do, that'll get Dak back up to those 600 passing yards a season. I like Dak. I was toying with moving him down to 8 and moving the 2 guys I have up, but Joe Burrow and the way he plays kind of scares me a little bit, in terms of fantasy football. So it just, I don't know. Dak is kind of where he is right now, and I might move him to 8 where Rick has him, to be completely honest with you. But as of right now, I mean, in the this past season, he had 4,400 passing yards, 37 passing touchdowns. He has this ability to rush, but he's too afraid to do it. And
I don't know if that's ever going to change.
And I don't know that it's ever going to change, because you look at like 4 years ago in 2018, 305 rushing yards. 2017, 5 years ago, 357 rushing yards. His rookie year, 2016, he had 282 rushing yards, right? 2019, 277 rushing yards. 2020, he had 93 rushing yards in just 5 games. And in 2021, he had a total of 146 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So that is a massive cliff to fall off of.
Especially the touchdowns. And that is why Dak dropped. Now, you know what, Rick? Live on the show. Oh, no.
I'm moving Dak to 8.
To 8? You dropped him 2 full spots.
I dropped him 2 full spots.
Wow.
I just put him in the wrong spot.
You should have just deleted him and then put him where you want.
You know what, Rick? Suck it, kid.
I have Dak at 8 too.
Yeah.
You can continue if you'd like.
No, go ahead. I just moved Dak to 8, and it's because I'm not super excited about Dak. I still think he has it, but
I have a lot of issues with Dak, and I think Deshaun Watson's not on either of the lists. But if it's by the time you are listening to this, maybe he's on a new NFL team and he's in a spot already and all that stuff. Depending on what happens, I think Deshaun Watson's probably going to be maybe even tempted to put Tom Brady ahead of him, but I do not know yet. We'll have to review the offseason. Dak is coming off a torn ACL. it wasn't a torn ACL, wasn't it?
He broke his foot.
Broken foot.
No, it was the ankle injury. The gruesome.
He's still mobile, but it didn't seem like he wanted to run as much this year, and that's something that may never change. He's going to be 29 years old, so by no means is he old for a quarterback. But when it comes to rushing, it's around the age of 30 where the rushing quarterbacks kind of start rushing less than they used to. So you take that into account. 37 touchdowns was a career high for Dak in terms of passing.
And he still wasn't that prolific.
Don't know if he reaches that. Yeah, I don't know if he reaches that again.
Yeah.
I think Amari Cooper was huge for the Cowboys. Even when he wasn't getting targeted, he was taking the defense's a lot of times best corner, or at least a lot of attention. Taking him away is going to be huge. I think CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are obviously still very good, especially CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup's a great wide receiver too. So it doesn't. The offense will still be fine. The passing game will still be fine, but it is something to keep your eye out for. Because what was the Cowboys passing game this year with and without Amari Cooper? To my knowledge, there was a difference. I remember who they played, the Steelers, who had a very good defense. Was it the Steelers? The game where CeeDee Lamb got hurt and he was by himself because Cooper wasn't there? I think the Cowboys in that game only scored like 10 points. And now, again, it was the Steelers, but it just kind of goes to show you, I think the offense was just better with Amari Cooper.
They did not play Pittsburgh this year.
Oh. Who was the team? What was the game they played where CeeDee Lamb got hurt and you were all pissed off because Amari Cooper wasn't playing? And it was like his game to shine.
Oh, God, I can't remember. I can't remember.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They
scored like 10 points. It might have been the Chiefs, actually, for like 13 points. And the Cowboys had a couple of games like that this year. There's just so many question marks with Dak. In order for him to,
I think he was
QB9. He was QB9 in points per game.
Remember prime Russell Wilson with Seattle, and he had like maybe one season where he was top 3.
I'm actually going to get to that, but yes.
But he always finishes like 8, 9, or 10. I think that's Dak.
Kind of.
I think that's Dak. Like, I think Dak's ceiling is like 7. And so we'll see. We'll see where he ends up. But I think he's a good quarterback. I think he can be consistent. But I mean, you look at year on year, right? And I don't want to get too far into this, but year on year, right? He ends up like I think it was 2020 was his best season. Or not 2020, the year before that. 2019 was Dak Prescott's best season. He like broke out. He had a really good season fantasy football wise. Was it not 2019? What the frick? Oh, I'm not in 2019. I'm in 2020. I'm an idiot. Hold on. Pulling up the numbers as we speak. Give me a second.
Yeah, it was
Dak Prescott, number 2 in fantasy football. It was 2019. And so it's like he had that season, but then you look at seasons prior with Dak Prescott, and he was always around that range of, 10, 8, somewhere around that area. So I think that's kind of what Dak Prescott is at this point, and I don't think that's going to change. So yeah, I will adjust my rankings for that and put him 8.
It's fair.
You ready to move on to the next guy?
Yes.
Number 9, Matt Stafford. We don't have Matt Stafford on this list.
No.
I will let you know where I have Matt Stafford. He is currently the 12th quarterback for me. With Brady back, he might be 13. I talked to Rick prior to the show, and I brought up the points per game numbers for last season with a 12 game limit of how many games you had to play. And Stafford was number 10. He was number 10.
That was without Deshaun Watson.
That's without Deshaun Watson. That's without Russ playing, in the situation that he's in right now. And the reason why I'm lower on Matt Stafford is because, yes, he's got all these players. Yes, he just won the Super Bowl. And I think people are looking at that going, well, I need Stafford. And it's like, you're going to buy Stafford at his ceiling now because he had a really good season. And I'm not about that. I would rather draft Jalen Hurts. Well, yes, but I would rather draft guys like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, like breakout guys later than waste a earlier draft.
I mean, if you include guys like that, well, I get what you're saying. Yeah. If they were the exact same spot, you would take Stafford, though, right?
Yes.
Or would you not?
Well, okay. Yeah. If it was a 10th, if it was, say he was drafted in the 10th round and the ECR was 10th round Stafford, 10th round Trey Lance, I would take Stafford.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but where he's getting drafted now, I'd rather go later and draft some of the younger guys.
Me too. Yeah, I agree with you.
Take a shot in the dark. So Stafford is not in my top 10 because I think the analytics or the players, not the analytics, the players around him are great. He has a good offense. They're going to be good this year. Things are going to go well, but we're running on a high right now, the Rams, and we're not realizing that Stafford was 10 in points per game this year without some of the best players in the league kind of overtaking that slot. So taking him as a top 9 quarterback is scary to me.
Yeah, I like Stafford a lot. I like the players around him. I think Odell's probably going to come back. Robert Woods is coming back. Cooper Kupp, obviously. I just don't know. Like you said, 10th in point. I think he might have a similar year too, statistically. Maybe not 40 touchdowns. Maybe he gets like 38, but it's going to be a high-powered offense. But even if he gets a similar season, 10th in points per game minus Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, kind of. Mm-hmm. That would put him QB 12. That's kind of where I have him. I think I have him around QB 11 or QB 12. I think I'd probably put him QB 12 right now. So I like Stafford. I think and this kind of just shows the depth at the position. Like Matt Stafford is going to be, I think, a week-to-week starter. Like he's capable of that, getting 20 fantasy points a week, and he's the QB 12.
Yeah. Like now, the guy that me and Rick do have ranked in this vicinity instead is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson. You have Wilson 6.
Yeah,
you excited?
That would be the highest.
You're excited
by any person.
I have.
So can I make a quick argument for this? Super quick because
go ahead. I was just gonna say
I have to leave for work 1 minute ago, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson, you were saying earlier about how he's always like 8 or 9, but he never finishes in the top 3. That is partly true. He's usually never finished in the top 3, but he's usually a little higher than 8 or 9. If you go back to 2017, QB1, 2018, QB9. So there you go. He was QB9 that year. 2019, he was QB4. 2020.
Let Russ cook, baby.
6. So last year, we'll take last year, his last full season with Seattle, he was QB6. And it was by a large margin. He was only 4 points behind a healthy Deshaun Watson and 8 points behind Patrick Mahomes. He averaged 23 fantasy points a game, which is really, really good. I think this year that would have put you at QB2. Okay. So he was doing that in Seattle, not throwing a ton of passes. Yes, he had DK Metcalf, and yes, he had Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
And I think those guys are just a little bit better than Cortland Sutton and Judy, I would say, in terms of talent, mostly on Metcalf. But Judy and Cortland Sutton are very good still. And this now with Denver, he has depth. He has guys like Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler, a better offensive line, and he'll probably throw a couple more passes. It might be a quicker paced offense than you saw in Seattle. It will definitely be a quicker paced offense than Seattle because they had one of the slowest paced offenses in the league. I'm just trying to tell people, Russell Wilson, if you finished in the top 6 almost every single season in Seattle, I think it's very possible he does it in Denver. That is my quick argument.
There you go. I don't disagree with you. I might have Russ higher later in the season, but so he is in our top 10. I just want to let you guys know that. Number 10, and the final guy we'll talk about is Jalen Hurts. And I think, based on the season that Jalen Hurts had, in points per game, he ended up, I think, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that list. And he was very, very good last year. And there were games where, and for fantasy, not in real life, people are going to be like getting triggered. But he had a really good fantasy season last year, and he had some success. He does show a lot of issues and inability to pass. He's not consistent passing the football at all, but what he does provide is very good rushing, and I think the Eagles are building kind of around that rushing mentality. I think the reason why Jalen Hurts is 10 is a double whammy. I think if Jalen Hurts does take strides this year and improve going into his third year in the NFL, I think he could actually end up being, a top 5 quarterback in fantasy because he was good for fantasy. But the problem is in real life, he kind of isn't great. And so with that being said, I don't know how much longer the Eagles are going to kind of hold on to this guy and run with him.
It'll depend on how he plays this year.
It depends on how he plays this year. And for me, I feel like every single week there's a call to go to the backup quarterback. There are strong calls to go to Gardner Minshew this year again and again and again for people. And this is it. This is it for Jalen Hurts. If he's not good this year, I think the Eagles will look elsewhere. They're already rumored to be in talks for Deshaun Watson. They don't sound confident on the external to the media about Jalen Hurts, and that is my issue with him more than anything else. Is I think he can be a great fantasy quarterback. He's definitely top 7 in my mind. If that's the case, because I ranked him 7, Rick ranked him 9. Never said that. But in the long term for Jalen Hurts, there is no real long-term value until he solidifies that job for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Hurts. I think he's very solid. Where did he finish in points per game this year?
7.
So yeah, I kind of think he's going to be around the same spot this year. And then you obviously potentially add Deshaun Watson. And then I think Russell Wilson has a jump. So that's why I have him at 9. But I don't hate it. He's obviously fantastic on the ground. He needs to be better as a passer, though. He wasn't awful as a passer. He just wasn't good either. He was kind of mediocre to below average as a passer. 61% completion percentage, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Again, not the worst you've ever seen, but not great either. So he needs to be better as a passer. I am kind of scared he had 10 rushing touchdowns this year. I mean, even the best rushing quarterbacks usually have about 7 or 8. Yeah, so I think you could see a touchdown or 2.
This is the way the Eagles run their offense with Jalen Hurts, though.
It's true. And, if you expect a decrease in rushing touchdowns, you could see an increase in passing touchdowns. So instead of 16, I would like to think he throws at least 20. Wait, did he have 16 touchdown passes? Did I read that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would like to think he throws more than 16 with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert in that offense. And there's also rumors about Eagles adding a receiver. So,
well, everyone's adding a receiver.
I know everybody is, but I still think you could see an uptick there. He concerns me a little bit, so that's why I'm a 9.
Okay, 3,100 passing yards last year is not too shabby considering Lamar's best years. He's like at 3,500.
True. Well, I think Lamar last year was on pace for like 3,600.
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, I think Hurts. There are some things like his completion percentage is just not great. His true completion percentage is 66.9, which is 32nd in the NFL. And he was kind of in the bottom in terms of efficiency. He was middle to bottom of the league in most of those efficiency metrics. But then there were some times where he played really well, like money throws. It says, on Player Profiler, it's defined as a pass requiring exceptional skill or athleticism. And he had 35 of those, which is number 7 in the NFL. He only had 37 interceptable passes, which is number 5 in the NFL. Or that could be in the opposite direction. Could that be the higher number is worse?
I'm not sure.
I don't know how that works. But anyway, I think he needs to improve in the red zone. I think he needs to throw more passing touchdowns. And Rick's right. If he regresses 3 touchdowns in rushing, he needs to gain 4 or 5 passing touchdowns in that area. So just to stay at 6 or 7 in where he finished last year. And we don't even know if he's going to keep the job. So This could be a really scary draft selection. And I think that's why he's ranked at 10. But assuming he keeps the job, I think he finishes top 7, and that's why I got him there. Rick obviously argued why he has him 9, and there you have it.
That's it.
That's it. Those are QB rankings. Rick's got to go to work. So I have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyla Murray, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers in my top 10. Rick, go ahead.
I had Josh Allen 1, Patrick Mahomes 2, Kyla Murray 3, Lamar 4, Herbert 5, Russ 6, Joe Burrow 7, Dak 8, Hurts 9, and Aaron Rodgers 10.
There are your top 10 quarterback rankings. We did it in one show. Took a little bit extra time, but next week I think we're diving into rookies. So we'll see you then, guys.
Sweet, later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.